fourth section of Mastering Magento 2 course, Customization. In this section, we are going to take a look at dependency injection configuration, plugins and observers, layout configuration, and JavaScript customization. The first video of this section is dependency injection configuration, and in this video we are going to take a look at preferences, arguments, and virtual types. Let's take a look on customization using dependency injection on example of login functionality. So let's add some log entry point to our module. I'll go to app code mastering sample module, console command add item. Here I'm going to add a log record each time I call this command and new item is added. So for this purpose I will need an additional dependency to constructor, and this is logger interface from PSR log namespace. I'll create a property for this instance and assign input logger to this property. Now I am able to use instance of logger interface in this my class, and what I'm going to do is right after saving an item I will call logger and log a debug message saying item was created. That's it. Now each time we call this command and item is saved, we'll see item was created message in debug log. Let's test it. So we call bin Magento mastering item add, and we'll pass the summary of an item as a first argument. So looks like item was created, and let's check our logs. Debug log default location in Magento 2 is project root var log debug.log. As you can see, here is our message. Now what I would like to customize is to change output file for debug log messages. And there are three basic ways how we can do this using dependency injection configuration. Let's take a look how functionality is configured in Magento itself. So as you already know, dependency injection configuration file is located almost in each module under etc directory in di.xml file. However, there is global configuration file independent of module context, and this file is located under project root app etc di.xml. The basic logger functionality is configured in this file, and as you can see, the first line is defining preference for logger interface that we used. Each time any class will request PSR logger interface, it will get an instance of Magento framework logger monolog because of this configuration entry. If we'll scroll down, we'll see the configuration of Magento framework logger monolog, and here is just arguments configuration. This configuration is specifying which arguments each instance of Magento framework logger monolog class will get, and it will have name main and two handlers, system and debug. As you might guess, our target is debug handler. Let's take a look on this class. It extends base that provides all functionality for saving the data and actually defines file name and logger type. What we would like to change is file name, and for this purpose we'll create our debug handler within sample module. Let's go to sample module, model directory, and create a PHP file called debug handler. I have contents prepared, and it basically copy of original debug handler with changed file name. So now file name is var log debug underscore custom.log. We created this file, and now we would like to use this debug handler instead of original Magento framework debug handler. This can be done by changing DI configuration. So we go to our etc di.xml and we'll add a preference. Preference that will say that instead of Magento framework logger handler debug class instance, we'd like to use mastering sample module model debug handler. This DI configuration entry will change the behavior of all framework and each module. So now instead of logging using Magento framework handler, all Magento will start logging debug records using the handler from sample module. And let's check it. First, we have to clean cache because we changed the XML configuration. And now let's add additional item. The item is added. Now let's check our logs. We go to var log, and as you can see, the debug custom log is created. It says item was created. So our functionality works. Our customization is in place. However, when we use preference in di.xml, it is affecting all functionality in Magento framework. Let's create a more specific DI configuration. And for this purpose, instead of preference, we'll use type arguments. So now we are specifying that for type, for class Magento framework logger monologue, we would like to use to add debug handler that will be of type mastering sample module model debug handler, and this should override default configuration of monologue. Let's check this implementation. Flushing cache, adding item. Let's check our logs. As you can see, second item was created, record was added to debug custom log, and also Magento framework started logging to debug custom. This DI configuration is a bit more specific. because it's replacing the type of debug handler just inside Magento framework logger monologue. If there are different loggers, this configuration will not affect those classes. However, all Magento framework is using instance of this class, so it still affects a lot of functionality. Fortunately, we can customize login even more specifically using the same DI configuration. And now we're going to use virtual types. So in this case, we are creating virtual type based off Magento framework logger monologue. And what does it mean? It means that we are creating new class, almost like new class. However, this class will be based on the code of Magento framework logger monologue. The class name is mastering logger, and the difference of virtual type from the original type is arguments. And here we are configuring arguments that monologue will receive on constructor. The name is the same, and handlers will get first system handler, and this will be default Magento framework logger handler system. And second, we would like to change. This is debug, and we would like to change it for mastering sample module model and debug handler. Now we have customized instance of Magento framework logger monologue. And what we would like to do is to use this instance just for our command class. So we are in second entry to DI configuration, and this is type entry. We are defining that our type mastering sample module console command add item. For argument named logger, we'll get mastering logger instead of default Magento framework logger monologue defined by preference. Now, when we are creating instance of add item class, mastering logger created using specified arguments for constructor will be passed to our class. And this means that now our customized debug handler will be used just for one add item class and will not affect all other framework functionality. And let's check this implementation. So we clean cache and add another item. Now let's go back to logs. As you can see, additional item was created. And now all other login will be done to debug log, and only our command will continue logging to debug_custom.log. Thank you for your attention. In the next video, we'll talk about plugins and observers.